Who are you, and why are you here?
I didn't come for your money.
Then what do you want?
I came to bury my father.
On the other side of the mansion, Maya stood alone on the balcony outside her guest room. The cool evening breeze brushed against her face. She looked across the beautifully landscaped gardens. This mansion was supposed to belong to her father, yet it felt like she had entered the home of strangers. She reached into her handbag and removed the old photograph once again. Her fingers gently traced her father's smiling face. I finally came home. But why does it feel so lonely? A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. It was Sandra. She carried a tray with tea and light snacks. I thought you might not have eaten all day. Maya smiled gratefully. Thank you. Sandra placed the tray on a small table. For a few moments, neither woman spoke. Finally, Sandra broke the silence. Can I ask you something? Maya nodded. Did you really know my father? Maya looked down at the photograph. I knew him, but not the way I wanted. Sandra frowned. Oh, what do you mean? He visited us only a few times each year. My mother never allowed me to ask questions. She always said, one day your father will explain everything. Sandra listened quietly. There was no hatred in Maya's voice, no bitterness, only sadness. Downstairs, Mama Bisi watched the two young women talking from a distance. A small smile crossed her face. Perhaps there was still hope for this family. But her smile disappeared when she noticed Uncle Femi secretly watching them from the hallway. His expression wasn't one of curiosity, it was one of calculation. Without anyone noticing, he quietly made a phone call. She's here. There was a pause, then he spoke again. Move the documents tonight. No one must find them. He ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket. From the kitchen doorway, Mama Bisi had seen everything. Her heart began to race. She knew exactly which documents he was talking about. And if Uncle Femi destroyed them, the truth about Maya's mother might disappear forever. She looked upstairs toward Maya's room, then back toward Uncle Femi. For the first time in 25 years, Mama Bisi decided she would no longer remain silent. Night settled over the Adedeji mansion. The last of the mourners had gone home. The once crowded compound was now quiet, with only the sound of crickets and distant traffic drifting through the air. Inside the mansion, everyone had retired to their rooms, or so it seemed. Maya sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the small silver key Mama Bisi had placed in her hand. She turned it over several times. It wasn't an ordinary house key. It was old, heavy. Its edges were worn from years of use. One question echoed in her mind. What was it meant to open? A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Before Maya could answer, the door opened slightly. Mama Bisi stepped inside, carrying a tray with a cup of hot tea. She quietly closed the door behind her. I brought you something to help you sleep. Maya smiled. I don't think I'll be sleeping tonight. Mama Bisi looked toward the bedroom door to make sure it was locked. Then she lowered her voice. Neither will I. She walked closer. Do you still have the key? Maya opened her palm. The old silver key rested there. Mama Bisi nodded. Good. This house has many rooms, but there is one room that hasn't been opened in over 25 years. Maya's eyes widened. My father kept it locked. Mama Bisi nodded slowly. Only your father and I knew it existed. He made me promise that if anything happened to him, I should bring you there. Maya stood up immediately. Then let's go. Mama Bisi shook her head. Not yet. They are still awake. As if on cue, footsteps echoed in the hallway. The two women fell silent. The footsteps stopped outside Maya's room. A shadow appeared beneath the door. Someone was standing there, listening. Maya instinctively held her breath. Mama Bisi gently squeezed her hand, signaling her not to speak. After several tense seconds, the footsteps moved away. The two women waited another minute before speaking again. Mama Bisi whispered, "You must be careful. There are people in this house who are terrified of what that room contains." Meanwhile, downstairs, Uncle Femi entered Chief Adedeji's old study. He locked the door behind him. Walking directly to the large bookshelf, he began searching frantically. He pulled books from the shelves, opened drawers, checked behind paintings. His breathing became heavier. It has to be here, he muttered. It has to be. Suddenly, his phone vibrated. He answered immediately. Did you remove the documents? A nervous voice replied, No, sir. We couldn't find them. Uncle Femi's face darkened. Then keep looking. If those papers are discovered, we lose everything. He ended the call and slammed his face onto the desk. Hidden just outside the study, Sandra had heard every word. She wasn't sure what documents Uncle Femi was talking about, but one thing was becoming clear. He wasn't trying to protect the family, he was protecting himself. Upstairs, Mama BC finally looked back at Maya. Tomorrow night, I'll take you to the room, but whatever you find inside, it will change your life forever. Maya tightened her grip on the silver key. She had come looking for answers. She had no idea. She was about to uncover a truth that had been hidden for a quarter of a century. The following evening, the Adedeji mansion looked peaceful. Dinner had ended. Evelyn retired to her bedroom after another cold glance at Maya. Toby left the house to meet Amara. Uncle Femi drove away, promising to return the next morning. One by one, the lights inside the mansion went out. Mama Busy waited patiently. She stood by her bedroom window, watching the security guards complete their routine patrol. When the mansion became completely quiet, she gently knocked on Maya's door. It's time. Maya quickly picked up the small silver key and followed her into the dimly lit hallway. Neither of them spoke. Their footsteps were slow and careful. They passed the grand staircase, the family library, Chief Adedeji's study. Then Mama BC stopped in front of an old wooden wall covered by a large bookshelf. At first glance, it looked ordinary. She carefully pushed one side of the bookshelf. With a soft creaking sound, the heavy shelf slowly moved aside. Behind it was a narrow hidden doorway. Maya stared in disbelief. This room? Your father built it himself, Mama BC whispered. He said some truths needed a safe place. The old woman pointed toward a rusty lock. Use the key. Maya's hands trembled as she inserted the silver key. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, click, the lock opened. She slowly pushed the old wooden door. A cool breeze drifted out. The room had been untouched for years. Dust floated through the air. A single window allowed faint moonlight to shine inside. Everything remained exactly as Chief Adedeji had left it. There was an old writing desk, wooden cabinets, shelves filled with neatly labeled files, framed photographs, and dozens of carefully preserved journals. Maya walked in slowly. She felt as though she had stepped into another chapter of her father's life. She picked up one of the framed photographs. It showed a much younger Chief Adedeji standing beside a beautiful woman, Adaeze. Both of them were smiling. They looked happy, really happy. Maya's eyes filled with tears. I've never seen this picture before. Mama Bisi smiled sadly. Because no one wanted you to. Maya looked around the room. There were more photographs. Chief Adedeji holding baby Maya. Birthday celebrations, family picnics, simple moments, a life she never knew existed. She covered her mouth as tears rolled down her cheeks. My father, he really loved us. Mama Bisi nodded very much. Just then, Maya noticed a wooden box sitting on the desk. Unlike everything else in the room, it had no dust, almost as if someone had touched it recently. She carefully opened it. Inside was a sealed envelope with her name written across the front. For my daughter, Maya. Her breathing stopped. Slowly, she broke the seal. Inside was a handwritten letter. She unfolded it carefully. Before she could begin reading, a loud sound echoed from outside the room. Bang! The hidden door suddenly slammed shut. The two women jumped in fear. Someone was outside, and they were no longer alone. The loud bang echoed through the hidden room. Maya instinctively stepped back, clutching the envelope to her chest. Mama Bisi's heart pounded. For a few terrifying seconds, neither of them dared to move. The room became completely silent again. Only the ticking of an old wall clock could be heard. Mama Bisi slowly walked toward the hidden door. She listened carefully. Nothing. No footsteps. No voices. She gently opened the door a few inches and peered into the hallway. It was empty. She sighed in relief. It was probably the wind, she whispered. But we must hurry. Maya nodded. She unfolded the letter with trembling hands. The paper had yellowed with age, but the handwriting was unmistakable. It was Chief Adedeji's. As Maya began to read, her father's words seemed to come alive. My dearest Maya, if you are reading this letter, it means I am no longer alive. Forgive me. Not for loving you, but for failing to protect you the way a father should. Tears rolled down Maya's face. She continued reading. The day you were born was the happiest day of my life. Your mother, Adais, was my first love and my lawful wife. We dreamed of raising you together, but powerful people around me believed Adès was not good enough for the Edediji name. Mama Bisi lowered her head. She had lived through those painful days. Every word in the letter was true. Maya's hands shook as she continued. I fought to keep my family together, but lies, greed, and betrayal separated us. I was made to believe you would be safer if you stayed away from me. It is the greatest mistake of my life. Maya could no longer hold back her tears. She pressed the letter against her chest. I always thought he abandoned us. Mama Bisi gently placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. No, my child. He never stopped loving you. Inside the wooden box, Maya noticed another item, a small velvet pouch. She carefully opened it. Inside was a beautiful gold wedding ring. Engraved on the inside were the words, A and A forever. Beside the ring lay a folded document. Mama Bisi's eyes widened. The marriage certificate. Maya carefully unfolded it. At the top were the words, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Certificate of Marriage below. The names were clearly written. Adedeji Adebayo, Adeze Okafor. The certificate carried an official government seal and signatures. Maya stared at it in disbelief. My mother really was his wife. Mama Bisi nodded through tears. Yes, you were never an outsider. You belonged here from the very beginning. At that exact moment, a camera shutter clicked outside the hidden room. Click, both women froze. Someone had just taken a photograph. Mama Bisi rushed to the doorway. A shadow disappeared down the hallway. Before she could see who it was, the person was gone. Maya clutched the marriage certificate tightly. Someone now knew. The truth had been found. The following morning, the atmosphere inside the Adedeji mansion had completely changed. No one trusted anyone anymore. The discovery of the marriage certificate had shaken the family, but lawyer Kunle insisted that every document had to be verified before the final will could be read. To remove every doubt, Evelyn hired one of Lagos' most respected private investigators, Detective Daniel. By noon, Daniel arrived at the mansion carrying a leather case filled with investigation files. He greeted everyone politely before getting straight to work. His first interview was with lawyer Kunle. Did Chief Adedeji ever mention Maya before his death? Daniel asked. Kunle nodded. He only told me one thing. If Maya ever comes home, protect the truth. Daniel wrote it down. His next stop was Mama Bisi. The elderly housemaid hesitated at first, but after years of silence, she finally spoke. I watched Chief Mary Adais. I watched Maya grow up, and I watched powerful people tear that family apart. Daniel looked up. Do you know who those people were? Mama Bisi slowly turned toward Uncle Femi, who was standing across the living room, pretending not to listen. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. Daniel understood. Later that afternoon, Sandra asked to speak with Daniel privately. There is something you should know. She told him about the secret phone call she overheard the previous night. How Uncle Femi had ordered someone to move important documents before they could be found. Daniel's expression became serious. This investigation was no longer about Maya. It was about uncovering who had been hiding the truth for decades. That evening, Daniel visited the local marriage registry and compared official records with the certificate Maya had found. Every detail matched. The signatures, the dates, the government seal. The certificate was genuine. As Daniel walked back to his car, his phone rang. It was one of his field officers. Sir, we've just found something. Several properties belonging to Chief Adedeji were secretly transferred years ago, and every document leads back to one man, Uncle Femi. Daniel looked toward the darkening sky. The puzzle was finally coming together. But exposing Uncle Femi would not be easy, because desperate people always make dangerous decisions. The next morning, Detective Daniel returned to the Adedeji mansion with a different expression. He was no longer investigating Maya. he was investigating the people who had spent decades hiding the truth. Inside the study, lawyer Kunle carefully handed Daniel the marriage certificate, Chief Adedeji's handwritten letters, and the old family photographs recovered from the hidden room. Daniel examined each document carefully. The handwriting on these letters matches the signature on the will, he said. This isn't a fabrication. He then drove to the Lagos marriage registry, where he requested records dating back nearly 30 years. After hours of searching through archived files, one dusty record caught his attention. He carefully opened it. His eyes widened. There it was. An official marriage record between Chief Adedeji Adebayo and Adaeze Okafor. The dates matched the marriage certificate Maya had found. The government seal was authentic. The signatures were identical. Daniel immediately requested another file. It showed that no legal divorce had ever been filed. Chief and Adaeze had remained legally married. Daniel leaned back in his chair. So Maya has been telling the truth all along. His next stop was Pastor Samuel. The elderly pastor welcomed him into his office. I wondered when someone would finally ask. Daniel looked surprised. You knew them? Pastor Samuel nodded. I blessed their marriage many years ago. They loved each other deeply. What happened to them wasn't God's will. It was the work of greedy men. Daniel asked quietly, Do you know who? The pastor sighed. I never had proof. But Chief once told me he suspected someone close to the family was separating him from Adaeze. Back at the mansion, Sandra approached Daniel with another piece of information. She handed him a small memory card. I found this in the security office. It contains last night's CCTV footage. Daniel inserted the memory card into his laptop. The footage began to play. At exactly 11:47 p.m., it showed Uncle Femi secretly entering Chief Adedeji's study. Minutes later, he emerged carrying a brown envelope. He looked around nervously before hiding it inside the trunk of his car. Daniel paused the video. A faint smile crossed his face. This is exactly what I needed. As he closed the laptop, his phone rang. It was one of his investigators. Sir, we've located the envelope, and you're not going to believe what's inside. Daniel's expression turned serious. I'm on my way. For the first time in 25 years, the lies were beginning to fall apart. The following morning, everyone was summoned to the grand living room. No one knew why. Evelyn sat quietly beside Toby. Sandra stood near the window. Maya remained calm, while Mama Bisi silently prayed under her breath. Uncle Femi walked in with his usual confidence. He smiled as he greeted everyone. What is so important that it couldn't wait? Detective Daniel stepped forward. It concerns Chief Adedeji. The room fell silent. Daniel placed a large brown envelope on the center table. Yesterday, this envelope was recovered from a storage unit rented under another name. He opened it. Inside were old letters, bank records, property documents, and several sealed files. Lawyer Kunle immediately recognized them. These were the documents Chief told me had gone missing years ago. Daniel picked up the first document. It confirms that Chief Adedeji and Adaeze were legally married. He placed it on the table. Then another. This is a series of letters Chief wrote to Adaeze. None of them were ever delivered. Another document followed. These records show that someone paid people to falsely report that Adaeze had abandoned her husband. The room grew quiet. Daniel looked directly at Uncle Femi. The payments came from an account controlled by one person. He slid a bank statement across the table. Mr. Femi Adedeji. Uncle Femi's smile disappeared. That's impossible? Daniel wasn't finished. He played the CCTV footage Sandra had found. The screen showed Uncle Femi secretly entering Chief Adedeji's study and leaving with the same brown envelope. The room erupted. Toby stood up in disbelief. Uncle, you stole father's documents? Evelyn slowly shook her head. No, there must be another explanation. Daniel calmly continued. There is. He turned to Mama Bisi. Mama Bisi, would you please tell them what happened? For the first time in 25 years, Mama Bisi spoke without fear. She described how Uncle Femi pressured Adaeze to leave Lagos, how threatening messages were sent, how letters between Chief and Adaeze disappeared, how Adaeze cried for months, believing Chief had abandoned her, how Chief searched endlessly, never knowing he was being deceived. The room was silent except for Mama Bisi's trembling voice. Even Evelyn had tears in her eyes. She looked at Maya, then back at the floor. Daniel spoke again. Pastor Samuel has confirmed the marriage. The government registry confirms it. The letters confirm it. The financial records confirm it. There is no doubt. Maya is Chief Adediji's legitimate first daughter. At that moment, police officers entered the mansion. The lead officer approached Uncle Femi. Mr. Femi Adediji, you are under arrest for fraud, destruction of evidence, criminal conspiracy, and financial crimes. Uncle Femi looked around the room. No one came to his defense. Not Evelyn, not Toby, not even Amara. As the officers led him away, he stopped in front of Maya. For a brief moment, his proud expression disappeared. You look so much like your mother. Then he lowered his head and walked away. The mansion was silent once again. But this time, the silence wasn't hiding the truth. It had finally set it free. A week later, the family gathered at Chief Adedeji's graveside. Fresh white flowers rested on the polished headstone. Beside them, Maya gently placed a bouquet in memory of her mother, Ada Eze. She smiled softly. Your wish came true, Mama. We finally came home. Evelyn stood beside Maya. This time, not as rivals, but as family. Toby and Sandra joined them, placing their hands on Maya's shoulders. Mama Bisi watched quietly from behind. For the first time in decades, her heart was at peace. As the family walked away together, the morning sun shone over the cemetery. The years of lies, the betrayal, the greed had all come to an end. Only truth remained, and sometimes the greatest inheritance is not money, but the courage to face the truth and the grace to forgive.